Welcome to the first video of 2020, and I hope we all have a great decade of wood turning fun ahead of us. A bit of rough turning to start the year off. A piece of oak burr, about 17 inches by 15 inches, but some of that dimension gets lost because there's a lot of unsuitable and soft bits that need to be cut away. So first of all, I'm just going to turn to a rough shape on the outside using a 1/2 inch bowl gouge here. It cuts very nicely, quite soft actually, the burr. I was expecting it to be a bit harder, but it actually was very nice and easy to cut. And I'm just trying to get a rough shape to it and see how much I need to cut away. There are some deep inclusions in the bark just there, so I lost about 1.5 inches more than I was hoping for, but that's the nature of the beast with burr, or burl if you're on the other side of the Atlantic. So carrying on with the rough shaping, turning at about 600 RPM, not overly fast today. Bit out of balance as well, this piece, so always got to keep safety in mind. But you can see I'm keeping quite a wide rim because I'm hopeful that I'll be able to take that off and get some pen blanks out of that. Some of you might cast lumps of it in resin and do those hybrid boxes, but haven't got round to that yet. So this is a chance to get my McNaughton Centre Saver in action, just using the straight blade this time, just to part off that outside rim. I haven't got very far on the learning curve with this tool, so this is a nice gentle introduction to it and learning to sort of feel how it cuts and get confident with it, and eventually I will build up to doing some coring with it. So this is the standard set I've got. It's not inexpensive, but I'm hoping not to spend more this year than I earned doing wood turning. That would be a first, but if I have any kind of New Year's resolutions, that's probably about all I've got in mind, apart from doing as much turning as possible, of course. You can see I'm getting through that rim, bit of daylight appearing in it, so I've turned the speed right down now. There shouldn't be a problem with it when it comes off, as you see. There wasn't. It was turning so slowly, and of course it's trapped on the lathe. I've got the centre in the way, protecting me as well. So pack that away, back in its box and back up on the shelf until next time. And now I can turn my attention to finishing off a shape on the bowl, getting a tenon on it to put in the chuck, and then I'll be using a Woodcut Bowl Saver, which I've used before and feel a bit more confident with. I'm going to use it in mega jaws, so it needs to be 100mm tenon. It probably won't end up having a foot as big as that, but this is just, as I say, a rough turn piece. It's going to be 1 inch or so thick, and I'll leave it some time to dry out. Now that bark inclusion proved to go a lot deeper than I'd hoped. As you can see, I've lost another 1 inch or so on the diameter or more, but at last I'm able to get quite a nice shape. Just look at how glorious that wood is. What colour should it be? Right, a little bowl gouge now, standard grind, much smaller cut, gives a much cleaner finish than that the 3/8 bowl gouge that I was using actually in that second part of the shaping. And this will almost be a finish that I can sand. Hopefully you can see how clean it's cut, but it'll need a little bit of attention. Obviously before a finish goes on, it's got to dry out after all for a few months. Right, so the luxury of 2 lathes is put on in the jaws on my other lathe, and here's the Woodcut Bowl Saver. I'm using the small blade, and I've got a blank coming out of this, probably about 8 inches in diameter and 2 inches at its deepest. This is a very nice system to use, very straightforward. and I've had quite a lot of success with it. But I would have liked to have been able to take a bigger core, but I lost so much because of the bark inclusion. But as you can see, that's still a serviceable bowl blank. Now, just to work on the shape, I'm not taking it to finished thickness, but I do want it to be reasonably even. For the first 1.5 to 2 inches going down the side there, that's very similar in thickness, but in that part I'm working now, it has got a bit thicker at the bottom, so I'm just working that sort of 3 or 4 inch point, just to get that to follow the shape of the outside a bit more. I toyed with the idea of leaving the rim as it was with the sawn face, but decided against it. So a bit of truing up on the rim, which is angled slightly down so it leads your eye in. Now, I wouldn't normally sand anything that was being rough turned, but just wanted to do it for vanity. Take some nice pictures, close-ups, and so you can see how gorgeous this wood is, even without anything on it. Now imagine it with a thick coat of blue stain. Only joking.
And so a bit of rough turning. Now, ordinarily on a bit of rough turning I wouldn't do any sanding, but I just wanted to give you a foretaste of the glory of this burr that is going to be revealed when the oil is put on. Now, I was tempted to put a bit of oil on it now, but you can see these splits, I hope. If I oil it, it's going to make it harder to do anything about those. They may need to be filled with some sawdust and glue, or some resin. But the outside is looking wonderful. I mean, there are bits in there that might do with filling, but I tend to like to leave burr as natural as possible. It might look glorious blue though. Now, the point of rough turning, of course, is to give it a chance to move. I've left it with quite a large tenon on the back, and it's a good inch thick. If you could feel this curve, it's not as good as the curve on the outside. The curve on the outside I'm really quite pleased with. Quite a nice, pleasing, continuous curve, certainly from there all the way around, which is something I try to look for in bowls, unless I'm doing a deliberately different design. But here is a bit fat here. It still needs to be worked on that curve, a few ridges. It does bounce around an awful lot in there, so probably a job for my heavy scraper after it's had well, I think it should probably have at least 3 or 4 months sitting quietly out of the way, while it dries out a bit more. Of course, I do have a core here from it, perhaps not as large as I was hoping for, playing it a bit safe, still learning. Had all my new toys out today, didn't I? Both my bowl coring systems. But there is going to be in there is a lovely little bowl to come out. It would have been helpful if I'd made a little centre mark on there, but I'm going to be able to put that into some large jaws and find the centre on the bottom anyway. So that's not a problem. Excuse me. And then of course I've got this bit left. Now, there's not a lot of usable wood in there, but I think down here I should be able to get a pen blank or two. So rather than it all just being ended up on the floor, there's shavings. There is some use I can put this to as well. Well, I bet you didn't think the first video of 2020 would be along so speedily after the last one of 2019. But I did say this is my year for global domination. Until next time, thanks for watching. So watch out for some pen videos in the future too.